I think any Chief Minister of Gibraltar has to have that as a part of what he does, and therefore I'm embarked on that process as much as any of my predecessors were. Coming to a left-wing think tank in particular, I think it's important because there are, on the left, some issues which we need to deal with, in particular in relation to taxation, colonialism, etc., etc. We need to slay those cows as much as we need to be on the front foot against all the other issues that we face, either from Spain or from the other international organizations, but we have to put our argument.
Clearly the audience was very well up on the Gibraltar question. They asked very penetrating questions and indeed some quite aggressive ones as well.
Yes, interestingly, there have been that which I expected, which was from the left, the idea that Gibraltar is somehow still a tax haven, somehow still involved in tax dodging, something which has been on the front pages of the British newspapers, not just The Guardian, which you might associate with that idea of tax justice, but also on the front page of the Times for the past 3 or 4 months. So this is an issue that needs to be tackled head on. Gibraltar is not a tax haven, it's not an offshore finance centre, it's a fully compliant financial services centre within the European Union, complying with all European Union regulations and exchanging information with other EU member states and the states that sign tax information exchange agreements with it. Once we get that message across, we disarm those who want to put the argument. But you will have seen that very recently that particular argument, ill-informed as it is, was even put by the finance minister of Austria. So we've got to get the message out as far and wide as possible.
And also the message that Gibraltar will resist or try and do everything it can to change the British government's mind in relation to its proposed tax at consumption on gaming.
Well, yes, because I think it's important that we don't let our foot off the gas on that. That this process has to be political for the government as much as it has to be legal for the gaming industry in Gibraltar. These issues have to be taken with the British government. We are moving from an open market in the United Kingdom to a closed market. Other European states have moved from being closed to being open as a result principally of action taken by the EU Commission on the referral of Gibraltar gaming companies. So look, if there is an EU single market for services, it must be there for all services, not just for the services that Gibraltar is not able to rely on. Of course, gaming is not like any other economic service. It has its own particular requirements in terms of regulation. But Gibraltar is the state that regulates gaming, in particular online gaming, better than any other in the EU and possibly, I believe, in the world. So again, it's a message that we have to get across to the British government that they cannot suggest that there is anything lacking in Gibraltar online gaming regulation or that there is any reason other than pure revenue raising behind the measures that they're proposing, and that's why what they're proposing is in the nature of a tax which would affect trade between member states, which has to be dealt with.
You also highlighted the government's intention to strengthen ties with North Africa and with Morocco in particular.
Not something I've made a secret of in Gibraltar. As you know, this is an important thing for us. I've said it from the beginning, from the moment of my ceremonial address at the opening of the Parliament in December 2011, and the steps are now being taken in that direction. The visa waiver scheme for Moroccan nationals who have multiple entry Schengen visas is already in place. In the short time that it's actually been effective, I think less than 4 weeks, we've seen already 400 Moroccan visitors to Gibraltar on the visa waiver scheme. So this tells us that when we start advertising it, this is going to be a rich seam, hopefully, of tourism for Gibraltar, for Main Street, and I think something that should have been done before.
And of course another area where they might help is in taking some of our apes.
Also something that I think John Cortez has talked about and that we talked about when we were in opposition. It's something that we are very actively pursuing, not just with Morocco, but with other states in the area. Because, of course, as you know, the macaques, I don't know whether they're called apes or monkeys now. There's so much debate as to what the proper nomenclature is, are indigenous to North Africa, and therefore we want to find for them the most appropriate environment. It may be that there are environments out of North Africa which are also appropriate, but we're exploring all of those possibilities.
And finally, can we expect to see you continuing these lobbying missions in the UK?
Well, I think that they are an essential part of what a chief minister does in Gibraltar. I think you've seen all my predecessors do them, and I'm certainly not going to let my foot off the gas. I'm going to continue to put Gibraltar's case at every available opportunity.